Hello, everyone, and I'd like to welcome everyone for in this workshop. Before moving to the workshop, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Natasha Shrestha. I'm originally from Nepal, and currently I'm residing in Germany. And I'm working as a project manager for this workshop, empowering youth for climate advocacy from life learning development. So before moving forward, I would like to give some small overview regarding my organization, Life Learning Development. So I would like to share my screen with you. Okay, yes. I hope you can see my screen. Yes, okay. Life Learning Development. Life Learning Development is based in Duisburg, Germany, and it's a non-governmental organization that offers formal and non-formal research and upscaling activities, as well as planning, implementing, and development projects. We basically focus on these areas: development project, capacity building, network building, and as well as consulting. So currently, we are working on various projects from LLD, but I have only noted here some of our three current project, just to give a small overview on the project that the diversity of the project that we work on. The first one would be net zero emission, which is also an online workshop, which is going to be held on from 24th of January. If any one of you are interested to join this, so the registration is already open, you can join this one. And the next one is empowering migrant women for job insertion. And the next one would be Maple. So this is just an overview of the diversity that we work, just to show that the area that we work on. And then, so if you would like to get updates on our workshop, the project that we conduct, so you can follow us in our Facebook, Twitter, as well as in LinkedIn. So now moving to the workshop of today, that is empowering youth for climate advocacy. This workshop is funded by EVZ, and here we are two organizations working together, that is Life Learning Development, which is based in Germany, and Armenian Progressive Youth, which is based in Armenia. The main objectives of this workshop is to promote green transportation and empower youth in terms of climate awareness and advocacy. So after the completions of the workshop, we have certain kinds of expectations or the outcome that we expect. That is, we all promote green transportation, as well as this workshop will prepare our participant for team building, diversity, inclusion in climate advocacy, and the skills and the methodology that whatever we learn from this workshop will prepare the participant to utilize those skills in the society that they inhabit.
This workshop is sponsored by.
Now, I would like our partner from Armenia to give a brief introduction about their organization.
Hi. Thank you, Natasha. Hello, everyone. I'm Diana from the Armenian Progressive Youth NGO. I see some familiar faces. I see some people whom I have never met before, but I'm really happy that you are all here and we are all here for a joint initiative. So APY, Armenian Progressive Youth NGO, is a youth organization which was established in 2009. We are very active in youth sphere. We are organizing a lot of Erasmus Plus events, local events for Armenian youth and for international youth as well. And now we are very much enthusiastic about the climate related topics. And we are starting our new initiative, which is called Alternative Youth Center. So we are going to have a very climate friendly and youth space for everyone in Armenia, and I hope I will have the opportunity to share more information with all of you. And if you are interested, I can send the presentation about that initiative as well to Natasha, and she can share it with you. And I wish a nice kickoff of this online training. And if you have any questions, do not hesitate to contact me.
Now, I would like to request Mr. Mohammed, our first trainer, to take the charge.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Natasha, and very nice to meet you. And thank you, Ibrahim, for inviting me to be the first facilitator, trainer in this project. Yeah, who I am. My name is Mohammed Jaber. I'm from Jordan. I hold a master's degree in environmental sciences, specialized in climate change, water resources management. So today I will take you through this workshop. Can you see? I know this is the typical question in any workshop. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. So this is the basic start of any workshop. So climate change, science impacts, and communication, because I know that communication is really important, but before communication, what basic information do we have? And sometimes if the message is not clear enough, or the message is delivered in a not efficient way, I would say the consequences is not nice, or it will not have the impact that the aim of that message was. So I always like to start with the questions. So with two simple questions. I know that many of you are interested, specialized, or working on climate change, but just to remind us, I will be answering those questions in the next slide. So first question, why and how is the climate changing? And the second, what are the differences between 1 degree world, the world that we know now, and a 1.5 degrees or 3 degrees world that we are heading to, or maybe heading to. And I know that this year was full of climate events or weather events that maybe the world used to it or not used to it. I will go through some major events that happened this year, by the way. So the answer, 1 degree is now what we know now, and we know now a lot of things are happening. And a 1.5 to 2 degrees world is the ambition of the Paris Agreement of the United Nations Framework Convention of Climate Change, the UNFCCC. And the 3 degrees is the world that we are heading to or expected to go to according to the current commitments of the world leaders. So it can be expressed as the nationally determined commitments. I don't know if you had the chance to look at your countries. I know that most of the participants, or I think all of you, your countries are part of the UN or member in the United Nations, and by default participating in the conference of parties or conferences of parties. This year it was in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, and after Paris Agreement, the world leaders or governments submitted their nationally determined commitments, their commitments to combat climate change by reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And the current NDCs, I would say, technically is not enough, and a lot of work is needed. And I remember I read the nationally determined commitments of Jordan, by the way, which is my country, because part of my research. And because Jordan is a developing country and it's not really contributing to climate change, our share is really negligible, 0.075% of total greenhouse gas emissions. And because it's required to do something about it, in our report, everything is applicable with one condition, which is the availability of funds. So Jordan is not willing to do anything unless we get some money to do our adaptation or mitigation initiatives and the projects. So I don't know if you get the chance to read or have a look at your countries NDC. And second, what's the difference between weather and the climate? Because most of the time, especially when I started working on in this field, environmental education, climate change awareness programs, it's always that people mix between the weather and the climate. And, you know, the difference is really big because something is part of another thing. And I would say that weather is what is happening in the atmosphere at any given moment, includes wind, rain, temperature, precipitation, among other atmospheric events. So if I ask you, how is the weather today at your city or in your country, you would say that it's cold, the maximum temperature is 3, for example, in Hungary, it's raining, and yeah, if you go out, you need an umbrella or wear a jacket to warm yourself. In the maybe in India, the situation will be different. So the temperature maybe 25 or 20 degrees, depending on the region, less or more. I'm not sure, to be honest. So this is the weather. What's happening like at any given moment in the atmosphere. Climate is the average weather over a long time period. So what can we how can we describe, for example, the characteristics and the main properties such as a season or amount of rain? So if you ask what is the climate characteristics of Jordan? Jordan is I would say that's arid or semi-arid region. So technically we don't have much water, we don't have much precipitation. The summer is really hot. Sometimes it's the average in August 40 in the latest years. If we talk about another country, it will be totally different. So this is mainly the differences between those two. And actually, to study climate, we need data from weather. So if I want to study the climate patterns or climate change patterns or climate characteristics, I will need data about wind, rain, temperature, precipitation, solar radiation, among others. So it's part of each other to do the study and do the characterization, I would say. The climate system is complex, not complicated, but complex. And even scientists, when they are studying the climate system, they need to take into consideration many factors. What are the interconnections and relationships between the biosphere or the biosphere and the cryosphere or the land surface, and how can that affect the atmosphere? Because we have many different systems, and those systems are interacting together, and that interaction changes the weather or the climate with time. So if you can see, some arrows goes in both ways, which describe the action and the feedback action in the system. So how the sea ice affecting the atmosphere gases? What is the feedback relationship between them? The same thing goes for different parts of those different systems. So basically, when we study climate, we study a system, or more precisely, many different complex systems. Greenhouse gases, I know this slide, most of you, I think, are familiar, since most of you are activists, and you know that mainly we focus on carbon dioxide. So CO2 takes a really huge part in the discussion about greenhouse gases, and those greenhouse gases are emitted naturally and anthropogenically. So human activities emit greenhouse gases, and also natural activities. Previously, in the past century, some debate was about what are the causes of climate change? Are they natural, or are they artificial, or industrial, or anthropogenic? The sources, is it human or the nature itself? So how greenhouse gases work? Greenhouse gases originally is important. We need them in the atmosphere because millions of years ago, before the atmosphere formed, the temperature on Earth wasn't inhabitable, wasn't good for life. And originally, it's a natural phenomenon, the global warming, and without it, the surface temperature of Earth would be -15 to -19. So the greenhouse gases are important. We need the existence of those gases in the atmosphere because they work as a shield to harmful solar radiation, such as the ultraviolet, for example. And those greenhouse gases can absorb and emit radiant energy within the thermal infrared range. So they are important. They keep the temperature of the Earth, and without them, the situation is not good. So, you know, today morning I was looking at maps because most of the time I work with maps, and it's really interesting to see the annual CO2 emissions, the global annual CO2 emissions. And this map shows us the emissions by country. And you can see that from 0 to 20 million ton of CO2 in white, and the darker the color, the more emissions. And if you look at the map, I don't know, maybe you can write in the chat your country. What are the characteristics based on the color? Is it a huge emitter or a main player in the market, or CO2 market, or not? So are you from China or USA? I don't think that we have anyone from those two countries. We have someone from India. You can see that India, yeah, it has a good share. For me, I'm from Jordan, so I know that Jordan does not play any role somehow. So we are only 10 million people, and we are not industrial, so it's expected. So this is the map, and it gives us who are the major emitters or polluters regarding CO2. Why we focus on CO2? Because CO2 takes a huge portion from the emissions. So 74.4% of greenhouse gases is CO2. And usually, because it's the major gas, usually we use the carbon dioxide equivalent, CO2 equivalent, to measure all the greenhouse gases together. So it's like a unified unit to represent greenhouse gases and to talk about climate change. So mainly carbon dioxide, and then methane, and nitrous oxides, and the rest is the other gases. So this is basically why we focus on CO2. It's the major greenhouse gas in the atmosphere. So after that, what's the climate change then? So climate change is the statistically significant change in the state of the climate or the average weather that persists for an extended period, so decades or longer. That's why climate change is important. That's why we focus on climate change, because there is this significant effect that persists for an extended period of time. What we do today will affect next generations. It will be like maybe this year, next year, or 10 years later, which is the lag effect of climate change. And by the way, what causes this lag effect is the atmosphere. So the atmosphere, not the atmosphere, sorry, the ocean, the hydrosphere, the ocean, because the water in general has a high heat capacity. It stores and also CO gases capacity. It works as, you know, a huge boat that with steering, you know, taking from the atmosphere greenhouse gases, and that the effect appears later. So the acidity of the ocean, or the heat effect, and the effect of rising sea level. For sure, rising sea level is part of the heat, and also the melting ice glaciers. What causes climate change and global warming? As I said before, there is the natural causes, such as the volcanoes, which is, by the way, one of the main reasons the atmosphere was formed. So the volcanoes eruptions formed the atmosphere millions of years ago. Solar radiation change also affects climate change naturally, but what's most important, or more important, is the anthropogenic, how we as a human impact the climate system, and by emitting more greenhouse gases. So how it works: more greenhouse gases trap more heat in the atmosphere, leading this warming effect. And you know, there is difference between global warming and climate change, because some people would say that, yeah, global warming, but it's cold today, because the effect is not about getting warm only. It can affect, the effect can also impact other seasons, and also the differences are geographically dependent. So some regions would see more heat waves, and other regions may see other extreme events. So 1 or 2 warmer degrees, how is it important? It's the same thing about human body. So if your temperature increased by 1 or 2, so more than 37 degrees, you will fall sick and have fever. You can imagine the planet Earth as the same thing. So what are the symptoms of climate change? Global warming is one symptom, melting ice, higher seas, and also heavier rain. And I like this drawing, picturing Earth as a human, or as a human figure with this thermometer, and the doctor declaring the symptoms of what is wrong with that. So how many greenhouse gases have you been consuming? This is a really good question, and I think I talked about it earlier. Impacts of climate change. So this graph shows us three things, or 3 circles. The central circle is the drivers of climate change. You know, we have the greenhouse gases emitted by industry, by land use changing, and the middle circle is the change to the climate system. So we can see changes in the hydrological cycle, or ocean acidification, rising sea level, melting ice, and those changes will lead to the impacts. So how those things impact us? You can notice that, for example, fisheries falling, or heat stress, change in seasonality, habitable region of beasts expands. So it has different impacts. Maybe those are the major, and there are different impacts. And also, maybe you can take a moment to write in the chat, in your country or in your region, what is the major impact that you have? You will talk about it later in details with in the breakout rooms, but yeah, in general, like in your country, do you have localized flooding or flooding of coastal regions? Because, for example, in Jordan, we have heat waves. In the summer, it can reach sometimes 47, the maximum temperature. And in winter, we have floods. So we have this rapid rainfall, high rainfall intensity, and the formation of floods in major cities or in major valleys. So that's maybe summarizing the drivers, the change in the system, and what are the impacts. To move on, I was searching, to be honest, this morning, because this is December, and with December we always summarize what was happening this year. And many unfortunate events happened this year. I will start with Pakistan because I remember when I was reading the news a few months back, and watching all those videos of floods and intense rainfall. It leads to millions of people to be displaced. Over 1,500 people died, and severe health problems like malaria, diarrhea, and skin illnesses emerged. And there was an agreement that the floods that happened this year was really enormous, and not like other floods that happened previously. So it can be relied to climate change. Second, I think you also saw in the news the Hurricane Ian happened in the USA. And I remember I saw a video of a shark fish trying to survive on the street. So the currents, the wind, I don't know what happened. It moved fish and boats from the sea to the land. And because Americans like to talk about money, they say that the losses more than 100 billion USD, and the loss of 101 lives. So they have, I would say, better preparedness system. So the number of losses as life losses is less, but the money is, for rebuilding and for coming out of this catastrophe. Also in Europe this year, it was really hot in Europe, and droughts were really severe around the continent. So many large rivers in Europe dried out, like the Rhine and the Danube also declined in their water levels. And I remember here in Hungary, the forest nearby. I've been living here for 4 years in this city in Miskolc, and it never happened. Wildfires this year, it was really severe, and it was something really bad. Spain and Portugal, also wildfires, we had it, and it says that wildfires and the driest weather in Spain and Portugal in 1,200 years. So it was really something, and the impacts were really bad. And I think communities are still recovering everywhere around all over the world. And last, in India, for example, this is the first 9 months of the year saw severe weather events on 241 out of 273 days. it's really huge, and the disasters, those changes were in the form of thunderstorms, heavy rainfall, droughts, heat waves, lightning, floods, landslides, and it destroyed or impacted 1.8 million hectares of cropland, demolished about 416,000 homes, killed close to 70,000 animals overall. So, and and they also claimed more than 2,700 lives. It is really a huge impact, and that's why I think developing countries are more likely to be affected more than developed countries, because maybe we lack in many ways or in many sectors in this case. So how do we respond to climate change in general? I know I talked a lot, and this is, I think, the last slide. So we have two ways. We have the mitigation, which means addressing the root cause of the problem rather than dealing with its effects. So what are the causes of climate change? Okay, let's deal with them. It includes planting trees or using electric cars, retrofitting old buildings. This way, we are dealing with the causes of climate change. If we can't deal with climate change, or I would say dealing with the cause is not enough, so we move simultaneously to the other part, which is adaptation. Adaptation means addressing the effect, but not the cause of the problem. So how can we deal with the impacts or the effects of climate change? This can be done by building seawalls or planting mangroves on shores, reducing and recycling water use due to droughts. And I think if you talk to any Jordanian, I know I'm talking a lot about Jordan regarding these issues, but this is my main expertise. So if you talk to any Jordanian about water, they will tell you a lot of stories about how we adapt to it. How we store water, because sometimes we have 2 weeks of no water. So if you don't have enough water storage, you will suffer. And also growing crops that use less water or that are tolerant to drought. So there are many mechanisms to mitigation and adaptation. I know that the examples I gave are just a small part, and we have more. And that's it. Now we will start with the climate change communication. But before that, I will go to the chat. I didn't get the chance to see the chat and your answers. Okay. Yeah, in India, there were many floods. Yes, indeed. It's really huge, and the impacts are really unpleasant. Okay, nothing. So I was expecting something different, but I think it was administrative messages. So climate change communication. Previously, climate change, environmental justice movements started in the 70s. I know the date is 70s because that's what's written in the books. But I believe that human by nature are environmentalists. So by nature, we are more attached to nature, and maybe with industrialization, we lost this link to earth and natural system. But during the past century as well, the debate was initially by scientists, so by using all those technical terms, talking science, but by late 20th, by the end of the century, this debate moved, and by saying moved, it moved not only between scientists, it also extends to politicians, experts, activists, and concerned citizens. So it's not about the debate between scientists about proving the existence of climate change or not, because that was the situation in the 1990s. So there was still a debate, like climate change, a human caused or natural caused. And then became the politicians, in the early 90s with Rio de Janeiro summit and all those conferences to try to understand what to do about climate change, what to do about global warming. And later, this extends to experts, activists. We now, grassroots movements, city level movements, city councils, citizens are asking because they see that something is changing. And this debate is really good because it means that people are now more aware about climate change and more aware about the problems that are associated with this issue. So climate change, public opinion. And here we will start our first exercise by talking about two issues. Do you live in an area where most people agree that climate change is happening? Or do you live in an area where it seems that very few people agree that climate change is happening? Natasha, I need your help by opening breakout rooms, maybe to put 3 to 4 participants in each room.
Okay, I think they're already assigned. So when you are ready, just inform.
Yeah, so what I need you to do, like in your group, to take 2 to 3 minutes to talk, where are you from? And to talk about your community, your city, or your country. Like, do people agree that climate change is happening or not? If they are agree, like in which way? And if you have any question, you can ask me now before we move to the breakout rooms. And please, before opening the mic, you can just raise your hand so we can just manage everything. No questions, so I think we can move to the breakout rooms. So let's say 10 to 12 minutes.
Okay.
So hello everyone again. And before we move on with the presentation and other activities, I will ask each group to give me like 1 minute reflection. What was the story you heard in your breakout room? So maybe we'll start by the first group. Group number 1. One participant, please, to tell us what was the stories, what was the agreement. Do people agree on climate change, or do people not agree on climate change? What's happening in your countries? First group. No one?
I'm from the first group.
Okay.
Of course, we all agree that climate change there is in our countries.
Sorry, not you. I know that you care about climate change because you are here today.
I want to continue. I want to continue.
Okay, sorry.
You just interrupt me.
sorry. This is just the online thing. Yeah.
Not. But in my opinion, there is a differences between generations. Young people accept climate changes, problems, issues more seriously than a generation, from example, after 60, 70 years. That's my opinion about my country.
You are from Armenia?
I'm from Armenia.
Armenia, okay. And other countries who were with you in the group? Which countries?
Oscar was with me. I think he will tell his opinion.
For me, I need one person from each group to wrap up everything. Just tell me glimpse about the conversation, if you understand me. So what's the difference
Oscar
between?
talks about the initiatives in their country. And when I talk about the differences between generations and ages, I think he agreed with me. What about Erdem? He is from Turkey, and he said that he didn't make any research but he thinks that people knows about climate change and agree with this. And the other participant, we can't listen because he has problems with microphone.
No problem. Thank you very much. The second group, what was the situation with you? What was the conversation? Do people agree in your countries? Were there any differences?
Hi.
Hi.
So second group is myself and Eugene. So Eugene is from Zambia and I'm from Nepal. And we both have like similar situations in our respective countries. Like everyone is aware of the climate change and the issues that both of the countries face is also similar, the floods, landslides, and continuous rainfall even after the climate. I mean, the season season has always been like it's a certain time for a particular season, but even after that particular season has ended, then also the same kind of rainfall and everything is being there. And so Nepal is since like a small country. It's just 147 square kilometers. However, the population is really a lot. It's overpopulated. And both of the countries have this issue of deforestation. People are cutting down the trees for the land because they need a place to stay. But in case of Zambia, they are cutting down the forest for the to yield the crops. So that's what we found out in between our talks in the breakout rooms. So
thank you.
Yeah.
So I think to wrap up that both countries are cutting trees, changing land uses to make a space for living or for crops, and both activities make a really huge impact on the climate. Third group, another minute for third group. Anyone from third group?
Okay, I will speak. I was from the third group, and as for the second group, I'm from Armenia, and there are members from Nepal and Bangladesh again. So group 2 spoke about the main things, and we were speaking about those things as well. And to sum up all of this, of course, climate change was a huge problem for those 3 countries, and the main aspects were like heat waves, droughts happening in the countries, floods, landslides, and so on. So after all of these consequences and impacts, we are thinking that climate change is the issue that should be voiced out and spoken in all 3 countries, and not only to be solved.
Okay, thank you very much, Maria. Fourth group, I think fourth, we are reaching fourth, right? Sorry, I missed in the counting. Who were in the, fourth. Okay.
Thank you. For the fourth group, actually, I can share our discussion because Anush was in our group from Armenia, and I don't see her. Probably she could also share some points. And Adekunle, I hope I pronounced the name rightly. He could not share because he was traveling, and that's why he could not participate, but he was in our group. However, I'm from Bangladesh, but now I'm living in Germany. And so we talked actually about some perspectives from Armenia, from Bangladesh, from Germany. And we believe that climate is changing, and how we mark it or observe it, it is different. Like Anush shared that actually she has the observation that carbon dioxide emission is affecting the situation. And my observation from my home country, that means in Bangladesh, we see more flood, and cyclone, earthquake, and also landslide, as our Nepali colleague shared that actually landslide is also a factor, and also land grabbing. That means we are cutting the plants actually for the housing. And so these are the points which we talked. And also just one point, probably, Mr. Mohammed Jaber, like from Germany, I am engaged in community cleaning project, and I observed personally, very especially, that in the European countries, actually, we use much or huge number of cars. So that is one factor. Another is plastic factor. That means we know that the Western countries, actually, people are aware that they don't throw garbage anywhere, but we see still plastic pieces actually near the streets, near the jungle, which are not taken care, and it is going to the waters.
Thank you very much. So to wrap up, I will return to the other groups in the next activity. But to wrap up, what's important about the community perspective about certain issue is the basic for the next movement. So if you admit that climate change is happening, if you are aware that the problem is happening, that means that you are ready to take action. So yeah, I know that climate change is happening, but I need help. How can I take action as an individual or as a community to fight such a phenomenon? And by the way, I forgot what I wanted to say. For the last, yeah, you said that Bangladesh earthquakes, but you know, earthquakes is not related to our issue, not related to climate change, really. Let me share my screen again. Yeah. The same thing I would say in Jordan. Yeah, we have agreement that climate change is happening most part of the country, and people aware because of the problem of water resources. So we see that we don't have rain, and when rain comes, it comes at once, huge amounts. We cannot collect it efficiently. So we suffer every summer, for example. So public opinions regarding climate change. University of Yale program on climate change communication conducted a public poll about climate change, and the public opinion means the aggregate of attitudes or beliefs held by the adult population concerning the science, economics, and politics of climate change. And also it's affected by media coverage of climate change. So how the media cover the issue, how much information is being transferred or being told to the public affects their perception and thoughts about climate change. So if you look at the graph, climate change, by the way, in Spain, followed by Italy, most of the respondents think that climate change is caused by humans, and in the light blue, equally by humans and natural changes. This light red is caused by natural, and the red is those who deny that climate change is happening. So if we look at this graph, we can, for example, notice that people in Saudi Arabia and Egypt, Nigeria, deny that climate change is happening. Like not people, sorry, like the majority, like there is a considerable amount of respondents that they think that it's not happening. And also when looking at the those who think that climate change is mostly natural, the same thing. And for least country participated in the study, for example, Indonesia has the least respondents, less than 20%, who thinks that climate change is caused by human. So when we talk about climate change, we talk also about the risk perception. So how risky climate change is perceived. How do you perceive the risk for climate change? Do you perceive it as a very risky or low risk? What informs your perception of climate change? So now I need you in breakout rooms to discuss those three questions. So as we started about the agreeableness of climate change. How many people in my community or country roughly agree that climate change is happening? And now we will discuss the risk perception of climate change. So Ibrahim and the group members, so please, those who cannot use the microphone or camera, you can write. So in your breakout room, you can introduce yourself right in the chat about those 3 issues. So how do you perceive the risk of climate change? How much climate change is risky for you, or like, is it very risky or low risk? And what informs your perception of climate risk? What is the source of your information? From where you get your information about climate change? Do you have any question about this activity?
Mohammed, I think maybe the question you can also copy it in the chat so that they can have
yes,
the opportunity to
yes,
go through it.
Okay, I will copy the 3 questions. Yes, and this is the chat. So if no questions, we can go to the breakout rooms.
Okay.
And please, those who cannot speak, just participate. Thank you. Okay, so to make use of the time, I need someone from the groups that didn't give me a reflection from the previous activity to tell me, like, what give you this perception about climate change risks? Is it risky or not? Like, what was the situation in your breakout room? Did you agree that climate change is risky, high risky, low risky, and what make this like perception about climate change? So I need someone who didn't participate, like didn't talk in the previous, and from a group that didn't give us anything.
Okay. Hi.
Yeah.
Can I take over?
We hear you.
Okay. Thank you. So this is Mawina from Ghana, and in the breakout rooms, I had to share the perspective from the African side here in Ghana, and I was saying that our agriculture is still dependent on the natural weather, meaning the rainfall. So we do not have this industrialized agriculture system yet in the country, or they are not much yet expanded in the country. So we are mostly dependent again on the rainfall. And from some times now, the weather or the seasons are no more happening the way we knew they were happening. So drought or the dry season is becoming longer, and the rainy season is or rains are becoming erratic in the countries. That is affecting in a high level the agricultural production. And aside from that, we have communities that are living at the seashore, and the sea also is gaining more and more ground, forcing people now to leave their habitat. And we have also wetland communities who mostly live dependent on fishery jobs. And because of the drought, then those water are drying up, forcing community now, because they don't have any activity again aside from that fishing job. And so they are forced also to leave their community, what is making now the capital city being jammed, because everyone is fleeing from the villages or the local communities to the capital city so that they can find a job and do. So yes, climate change is of a high risk here in Ghana. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other participant, like with 1 minute, so we can move on? Another participant? Perception. So as I understand, in Ghana, it's high risky, and people perceive that from the changes. Yeah, thank you. Another participant who would like to tell us?
I mean, I was from the same group, but maybe it's still okay. We just all shared our experiences from sort of our countries and what the perceptions are. And there's a difference. For example, you know, people that are living in Germany that often don't have the direct influences or direct risks of climate change, as for example, the people that live in Ghana have. We also have floods that, you know, people died in, and it's terrible. But still, it's a different perception of the risks. At least in my experience, it was always that people had more of an international thinking that, you know, people are being displaced by climate change, and that really, you know, if you have big waves of immigration, that's always something that's, you know, kind of a bad thing. And yeah, generally things like that. But people are still very aware of the risks, obviously.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I will share the screen. Actually, regarding the risks of climate change, some studies inform that civil wars can be a product or a result of climate change, and immigration. So people are changing their places of living, and we have an example from Ghana. So the example of internal immigration, sometimes it's external immigration, immigrating from one country to another. And in the same study, when they asked the participants, how worried are you about the climate change? The results were varied. That, for example, 68 of the respondents from Costa Rica says that they are very worried about the climate change. Colombia 65, Mexico 65, while people in the Netherlands, or 15% of the respondents in Netherlands says that they are very worried. For example, Saudi Arabia, again, I don't know why Saudi Arabia are not really positive. Like, yeah, 34% very worried, but on the other hand, 20% says that they are not at all worried about the climate change. The same thing for example, for Egypt. And we can see that there is differences between countries and between different groups regarding this question. So climate change. So these polls indicate that concern about the climate change are widespread. However, they also demonstrate how seldom individuals discuss climate change. So, you know, knowing the issue or accepting that an issue is happening is different from discussing or bringing that issue to talking. And this refers to climate silence, which is the unofficial, unspoken agreement to refrain from discussing a subject that can be unsettling or far away or uncomfortable. And this is changing because, as we say, that the debate is becoming more and more into societies, and people's concerns about the climate change grow, and it differs significantly across various audiences. So people with risk of losing their community or home due to a flood or droughts, they are becoming more and more to talk about the issue and asking for solution, asking for help. They want to change, at least to talk about it, to bring it to the discussion with their representatives, politicians, and community members. And here comes this activity. And in this activity, in 10 minutes, I needed to go to breakout rooms in pairs only, in two persons. So I need you to take 4 minutes, each participant to take 4 minutes to talk about when did you start caring about the climate change? Was there a particular moment that you can remember? And what action are you taking on a climate change now? And how do you feel about it, about that? So now in groups, Brahim, I want you to send people in pairs if possible. So 2 persons in a breakout room. So first person will talk for 4 minutes, and then the second will only hear for 4 minutes, only listen. And in 1 minute, you just reflect, ask a question, clarifications, and then talk for 4 minutes, the second person. And for the last minute, the first person will ask, clarify, or reflect about the story. So now I want you to talk about your story. When did you start caring about the climate change? And what was that moment that kicked that feeling? And what actions are you taking on climate change now? I know that there are a lot of individual actions. And how do you feel about that? Okay, so do you have any questions before we move?
Yes, please, a question here.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, I didn't really get what we had to do in the breakout rooms.
Now we will go only in there, and you will talk to your breakout room partner about your story. So, when did you start caring about climate change? Like, what make you start caring about climate change? What's your story? If you understand, okay.
Yeah,
and
yes,
now
you said something about two persons, one talking and the other one. So there is
yes. So you will talk for 4 minutes. Your bear will listen. Then he will ask you or clarify or reflect for 1 minute. Then he will talk, tell his story or her story for 4 minutes, and you will reflect or ask any question. So what I need you to be a good listener, to listen to your partner and try to ask or reflect on the story you hear.
Okay. Thank you.
So we have the rooms ready. So
two person. I need to.
We only have a room that we have 3 persons because we already paired everyone. So, but I think the 3 can still work.
Okay, 3. So the same thing.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I need to paste the questions. Yeah. Okay. We can go to breakout rooms. Okay. So I hope that you had the chance to listen to different kind of stories and get inspired. Most of the time, or all of the time, listening to others' stories can inspire us and can also motivate us to start and take action, because actions are not only for governments and not for communities, but also can be individual. So what kind of actions do you take to small actions or individual actions that you take to fight climate change? It also matters, because when individuals start taking those actions, I think there will be an amplified effect. And I know that, maybe my story is different because I studied environmental sciences in bachelor degree and master degree, but I had an issue about communicating climate change, like how to talk to my parents about climate change or about environmental pollution, about scientific terminology. It's really hard sometimes to translate those big terminologies and simplify it as simple messages to older people or to normal people or to people who are not in the field. Started maybe by volunteering, learning about communication, talking messages and telling stories. And stories are really powerful. And I need 2 participants who really didn't talk from the beginning to give me some feedback or some reflection. What did they hear and what inspires them? Elmira, you can start.
Yeah. Okay. So what inspired me was that one of our participants, Mika, has the same age as me. So both of us are 19, but I can't really say that I have taken any actions towards this topic because it's like kind of the first time that I'm deeply engaging in this. I just read some articles or something, but I did not really study it deeply. But he took part in some demonstrations and now he's like taking part in this. So it's kind of motivating that he's totally concerned with the topic. And also one of our other members, Ranush, she is from Armenia, but she told that because of hard rains, like the rivers was quite dirty and she had to buy water here in Armenia, even though, we have lots of water and it's quite unusual to see people buying water because they do not have it. So the thing that I kind of came into the conclusion is that we have to care about climate change and from now start to take some actions, even small ones, to make the change.
Yeah. And are you positive? Do you have positive feelings that you can take action or negative feelings? What's your
positive feelings? Because
okay.
like if you want to change something, you have to start it from yourself, like changing.
Yeah, but you know, you are already, I think you are already taking some actions, even if you don't know that you are doing that. So I can ask you, for example, do you have a car or do you use public transportation?
I use public transportation.
Yeah, so public transportation, walking is an action actually, because you are not emitting your own, you know, greenhouse gas emissions. And,
yeah, but I want to buy a car.
you know, at some point you will buy maybe, but I hope it will be electric, at least less emissions.
Yeah,
I know that electric cars are has some debate about, you know, pollution and other economic stuff, but at least you are taking some action. Even if you are reducing consumption or recycling, upcycling, you know, do all those actions, you are still doing something, believe me.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for your notes and reflections. Any other participant? Any stories, any motivations? We can take them with us today. I believe you have something to say, people. We have now 29. We started with almost
Mohammed,
39.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
From
I wanted,
4, actually.
you know, you talked before. I know. I started.
Yes. That's why I propose Arayat Chad, actually, from our group.
Okay. If he, yeah, step up, Ayara. We have 1-2 minutes before moving on. Ayara, are you here? I see your name in the list. Okay, then I don't know. People are not speaking. I'm giving the floor. Anyone to share a story for 1 minute? Okay. I will move on then to my presentation. It's really okay. So can peer pressure be harnessed to fight climate change? Yes, because science says, sociology says, everyone says that peers, friends, family, neighbors can influence how someone votes in the election, for example. And also that also applies to some of our financial decisions and the things we purchase. And I know that sometimes if you see your neighbor, you know, painting their house or renovating, you will have this idea that maybe I should do that as well. So, or if your I don't know, father do some home gardening, you will learn that, you will be affected by that and do the same issues. So peer pressure can be used positively in climate action. And also that humans are not driven only by statistics. So numbers, okay, I can tell you that 80% of population around the world believe that the climate change is happening. So what they are believing, and what's next? And you know, stories can really inspire us, can motivate us, regardless of who you are speaking to or how much technical knowledge you possess. Your own narrative is a potent communication tool. So the way you speak, the story you have, the experience you bring to the conversation is really important. And also it can bring the topic of climate change, which frequently seems unrelated to everyday issue, closer to home. This is, I think, the last slide. I will introduce you to the Drawdown project. It's really a good initiative about what can we do about climate change. That was a question. Paul Hawken, an author and environmentalist, believed the public needed an answer to it in 2014. He chose the term drawdown to remind us that we need to keep the big goal in mind, drawing down current levels of CO2 and other greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. And only when we reduce current levels of greenhouse gases, will we be making real progress. And I like this project because when you go to the website drawdown.org/solutions, you will be able to see many solutions in different categories that you can take individually or as a group. And if you don't know how to start, from where to start, what kind of action you can take, you can look at Drawdown website, take a look at the solutions provided, and see if something you can do, like recycling or reducing waste or reducing consumption of water, for example. Because every step matters, and every step you take, it contributes to solving climate change. And by this, I finish my session. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm looking at the chat. No questions. And I don't know, Ibrahim, if we have some minutes, if someone has any question, please let me know.
So maybe if you don't have anything, then we can end for today then.
Okay, so yeah,
okay.
on behalf of all the organizers, thanks to Mohammed, thanks to Imran, thanks to Mobilizing Experts, Afridat, Lively Development, and Natasha, Sabine, yeah, everyone involved. So thank you all. Dihan also from Armenia, EPY. Let's continue to share knowledge about the climate action and what we can do in our own little space. And I hope we'll be able to make the world a better place. So thank you for joining, and see you on Monday.